Hey everybody, welcome back. This is the Life Plays coming at you with another deck tech here. This one is for the Jolly Balloon Man. So I talked about it in a recent deck tech for Arabella, where I was kind of on the fence of, do I want to do Arabella, do I want to do Jolly Balloon Man? So I've played Arabella a little bit, and I've swapped out some of the cards, actually probably a majority of the cards, and shifted over to the Jolly Balloon Man, and I'm going to try this guy out. So far, I think he's really fun. They're both really, really fun. Just really depends on my playstyle and the other decks that I have built together. So let's get into this. So he's a red and a white for a haste, and he's Freaky-Jiki, right? So for one, he can tap, create a token that's a copy of another target creature you control, except it is a balloon. In addition, these are tokens I made. So they're one red balloons tokens, in addition to their other types, and it has flying and haste, and then it sacrifices itself at the beginning of the next end step. Activate only as a sorcery. I mean, if it didn't have that sorcery clause, this card would be absolutely busted. It's still really good, though. So, our ramp plan, we have Soul Ring, we have Talisman, we have Arcane Signet, Boros Signet. We're also going to be running a Cursed Mirror. So, we have a few reasons we're going to run Cursed Mirror, but one of the big ones is for a Felidar Guardian. So, we have a lot of ETB pinging enchantments or creatures, and if you have a Cursed Mirror and a Felidar Guardian, you can infinitely blink them, and you could kill the whole table. So it definitely does have combos in it. And that's, I mean, when you're headed by essentially Freaky-Jiki, that kind of just feels like it's a given. But yeah, Curse Mirror, running Patriarch Seal, just, even one extra activation of Balloon Man each turn can just spiral out of control into so much value. But also being a mana rock is just great. Gold Mirror, we need Mana Dorks to combo off in a Village Bellringer combo. Just because he is not Freaky-Jiki. He has a mana clause to him, so it does cost 1 every time. So you need stuff like Gold Mare. I am running Knight of the White Orchid and Loyal Warhound in case, we need to catch up on land. We can always make balloons of these guys. And then Ornithopter of Paradise is what I'm running instead of the Red Mirror. I like a flying guy, and I wanted to have more than one Mana Dork, but I didn't want to have just both the mirror. So Ornithopter of Paradise is in here. Solemn Simulacrum, such a good balloon target. You make one, you go get a land. When he pops, you draw a card. Oh, so good. Mage-Right Stone. I think you could either play this or Illusionist Bracers. I like this better just because Illusionist Bracers has that 3 equip cost. They can kill it in response. It's a sorcery speed activated ability. And I think, for 2, you can get this out a little earlier. And then 1 to just you untap him, and you can tap him again. So it could be pretty good, but I could see either or including both if that's the strategy you want to go in on. Getting us into the removal plan, I'm running Chaos Warp and Generous Gift as my spell removals. A lot of our other removals are going to be on creatures, so we're going to run Keening Apparition. I like this just because it's a sack. You can just sack it and get rid of enchantments. I have a lot of other ways to get rid of creatures and other things, so just enchantments. You could also run the one that you can pay 1 to sacrifice it to kill an artifact or enchantment. I just didn't have that. I had this one sitting around. So this seems like a good fit, and it can get rid of problematic things. Skyclave Apparition. Good balloon. Really good balloon, right? Enters, exile 1 target non-land, non-token permanent that you don't control. Pretty easy. Just take stuff, pop it, they get little guys. Who cares? Aowen. So good. Right, has haste, which is amazing, but essentially what you really want to do is when Aowen enters the battlefield, you exile target creature an opponent controls with greater power than, Aowen, and then legendary creatures gain protection from each of that creature's colors until end of turn. So just lots of utility, but the best thing is when you make her a balloon, she's a 1/1. So you can just get rid of anything that has greater power than 1, and then it will sack to the legend rule anyway, and just, boom, removal every turn. Same kind of thing with Solitude. So, except, Legend Rule doesn't apply here, but Solitude comes out, you can make balloon copies of this thing, and you just start exiling creatures. They gain life, so what? We're getting rid of problems. We're policing this board. That gets us into our pingers. So we are running Impact Tremors, Goblin Bombardment. I wasn't running this at first, but the ability to just be like, alright, and then I pop my balloon. And it can also dodge exile effects, so that's kind of nice, because you can pop things instead. But yeah, Goblin Bombardment, War Leader's Call, so good. Just the ability to just hit everybody for 1 and buff our creatures. Perforos, mwah. Perforos is just so awesome. Hit everybody for 2, really good guy. And then Agate Instigator, comes down, can already make a 1/1 copy of himself, and then we can make balloons, and he'll just be pinging people like crazy. So really, really good. Molten Gatekeeper. Whenever another creature ETBs under your control, hit people, and it also has Unearth. So if it does get killed, you could unearth it, and then you could Balloon Man copy it, and then you could drop a bunch of creatures and just ping everybody down. So really good, just has its own recursion to it. I really like Molten Gatekeeper for that. So all of these are super, super good win conditions for us, just because we drop a lot of balloons all the time, and we're making so many creatures, and we have so many ways to just infinite creature that any of those and one of those infinite creature combos, you don't even have to swing. You can just melt somebody down that way. Really, really fun. So we have Selfless Spirit here. That one is super, super good in the way that it is just great board protection. It's really hard to kill me if I have a Selfless Spirit just sitting in play. Because it's like, all right, well, I'll just sack it and then protect my board. And then what are you going to do? And then if you really want to, if you want to start swinging on things, you can always, like, Balloon Man. Make a copy, sack it, make your board indestructible, start swinging on people. Really good. So much utility there. Dawn's Truce, it's our heroic intervention, right? It's just great. It really, giving a card to make our stuff not only indestructible, but hexproof, and it's just permanence and me. So good. Love this card. Boros Charm. We're in it to give our permanents indestructible. That's what it's here for, but having other modes is just nice. Flawless Maneuver. Our deck is pretty reliant on having our commander out, so, just having a pretty much free way to give our board indestructible seemed pretty good. Teferi's Pro. If you can run T-Pro, then it's pretty good in here, especially in any list that is going to be running pretty wide, or having lots of key value pieces in play, and that's what our deck is leaning more into, is having Balloon Man, and, maybe we got wide, but typically we're just going to have a few, like, really good balloon targets in play, and then we're going to go off with those. So being able to protect those is really, really nice. Same reason we're running Clever Concealment is because we are going to have a lot of creatures out, so the convoke cost is pretty easy to pay. So really, really nice. And it's fun because if they played against the deck before, it's really hard to know if you don't have any mana up, does he have a Clever Concealment? It's difficult. Delney. This guy or girl, I'm not sure. It doesn't matter, but Delney is amazing. I wish I had 6 copies of Delney. I only pulled this one, but I just want to shove it in everything. It's so fun. It's just triggering all these abilities. It can activate it if an ability of a creature you control with ability power 2 or less triggers, that ability triggers an additional time. So unfortunately, it's not going to copy the Balloon Man, because it's an activated ability. It's not a triggered ability. But our balloons will trigger. A lot of our creatures are going to have, like, the whole point is to have triggered abilities on our creatures. So doubling up on our balloons can really create some interesting scenarios that you might not be able to originally achieve without Delney. Like a Wormcoil Engine token, when it dies, it will make 2 of each because it is less than, and it's a death trigger. So really fun, interesting things. Or when you have a copy of Inferno Titan as a bubble or as a balloon. Really interesting. Mondrak, Glory Dominus, and Anointed Procession. These go wacky with a deck that's just making crazy value tokens. Super fun. I like this a lot more than like a wide token strategy, just because our tokens are often doing nutso things. So these guys also can really help us combo out pretty easily. If we just make 2 of one of our combo pieces, or like when you're playing a Zealous Conscripts and you use Balloon Man, it's target permanent untaps, so you can untap a land and make a Zealous Conscript and just keep doing that. So pretty good. Pretty good. Recruiter of the Guard and Imperial Recruiter. They're little guys, and they have ETBs that tutor us whatever we need. These are our toolbox cards. Our deck is very much value generating, so being able to deal with problematic pieces, probably like the biggest thing I can think of is like an Elishnorn that would really annoy us. So that's why we're running stuff that, not everything we have is an ETB. We do have attack triggers that could also get rid of that, so pretty interesting stuff. Spirited Companion, getting into some card draw. So we're running Spirited Companion, Angelic Wall, Priest of Ancient Lore. These are our, when they come in, draw cards. So we can, drop them in, make balloons, draw some cards. Pretty good. I like them. Plus we get to run a dog. That's fun. We make balloon dogs. So there you go. Rumor Gatherer, Enduring Innocence, Welcoming Vampire, Mentor of the Meek. So these are all in a similar vein of cards, where when a creature enters with stipulations to it, you draw a card. So a lot of our creatures, you know, a lot of them have 2 or less power, but the ones that don't, the balloons will. So this is really focused on when the balloons enter, draw cards. So pretty good. We're running Skull Clamp, obviously. Popping balloons with a Skull Clamp, just so much value there. Now let's get into the nasty stuff. Our big spells. What are we gonna make balloons of? What are we waiting for? This one is awesome to make balloons, right? We have so many basics, but Commander is such a format where you find people that are just way getting into greedy mana bases, and we'll punish them with Sunspine Links. Right? Most we typically lose is maybe like 3, maybe 4. But other people, if they're playing a lot of different colors, you just Sunspine Links them. Damage can't be prevented is a great thing to have access to in your deck. And then players can't gain life, so you can shut down those life gain players and just start beating them down with this. And whenever it enters, it just deals damage to each player equal to the number of non-basic lands they control. So every time you're making balloons, just damaging them out. I talked about it and I referenced it earlier. Inferno Titan, baby. So this is a way we can really get around some of those ETB stoppers, just because Inferno Titan might not be able to stop the enter effect, but if we're making token copies, you can really just start pinging things down. I mean, the only really way to get rid of a big threat with a Inferno Titan is definitely you need one of our token pieces in board, but you know, if you have a Mondrak, you have one of our other things like that, or you have a Delney in play, you know, there's a lot of ways where we can fling damage and can be really good with Inferno Titan. Proud Pack Rhino. So keep in mind, this whole creature suite is the most flexible part of the deck, I would imagine, right? It's really whatever you want to be running. There's decks I've seen that are running like, you know, some of the Ogier Gods, some of those guys. There's lots of different value drops. It's really whatever you want to run. But I like this guy just because when he enters, he puts a shield counter on target permanent, right? That's what I like him for. That's it. That's all he's in here for. And then proliferate, I don't know, maybe. But really, just a balloon that makes a shield seems nice. Combustible Gear Hulk. This one's pretty flexible. I like it, but you know, if you want to swap it in for another bomb, then you could definitely do that. I like the idea that when it enters, it forces your opponents to make choices. Either they can let me draw cards or take damage. You know, they don't know what I have in my deck, so could do some decent work there. We're also going to be running Baylor. This is probably one of the ones I would definitely suggest running because he's just so good. You know, like he doesn't have anything when he comes into play, but he has a very powerful dies trigger and attacks trigger. So you drop him, you make a balloon, it swings and dies in the same turn, so you get to choose these modes a bunch of different times. So you can really mess up people's hands. You can do damage to them that way. You can really screw over the artifact player and just shut them down. So really, really strong. Jackdaw Savior. I pulled this in Bloomborough, and I was like, I don't really know where I'm going to put this or what I'm going to do with this. And then this guy came out, and I'm like, oh, well, here's your home, clearly, right? Whenever Jackdaw Savior or another creature you control with flying dies, return a creature with lesser mana value from your graveyard to the battlefield. So it's making clone tokens, or it's making copies of creatures with Balloon Man. And it doesn't specify anything about like changing its CMC or anything, so when it's referencing making copies of tokens like that, they would keep their CMC, and when the balloon dies, it will have flying. So that seemed like just such an excellent synergy piece, and I loved it. Mogmob. This bad boy is a really, really good piece of removal. You know, this is another way we can deal with really challenging permanents that might be stopping ETBs or messing with our board. We can just play this boy out, Mogmob on turn 4 if we wanted to. Typically we play this on turn 3 and then that on turn 4. But who knows? You know, you get 2 Mogmobs out, and if you really needed to, you could just strike down something for 6, right? Because it deals damage as you choose among 1, 2, or 3 targets. So, really, really, really good. We got Wormcoil, baby. You know, Wormcoil, any deck I can run Wormcoil in, I love it because it's just so game-winning and powerful. Just to have a 6/6 for 6, evenly costed Death Touch Lifelinker, and then when you kill it, it's not done. It comes back. Charming Scoundrel. Huge value piece, right? Wicked rolls, drawing cards, discarding cards, creates a treasure token, has haste in itself, really, really good. AO, This is also one of the ones I think you gotta put in this deck if you're gonna run him, just because when he comes in, and then you pop the balloon immediately, so it gets its dice trigger like that, and you look at the top 7 cards and put 4 CMC worth of stuff in. It's just crazy, especially if you get this in a token doubler or a Delney in play, and you just like pop, and then you get 2 triggers, and your board just goes nuts. You can oftentimes, like after a board wipe, AO is my like go-to plan of like, all right, I have AO and my board is good, I'll keep AO back, and then if they wipe, you just drop AO, like pop him, because Jolly Balloon Man has haste. He's really easy to get back out and recover, and this is one of your really good recovery pieces. Swooping Pterodon. I have come to really enjoy this card in this deck just because it's a theft effect and it has haste itself. It's a nice little flyer, but the best part about it is you drop this, you make a copy of it, so when it enters, or another dinosaur with flying enters. So that's the big key part there, right? So it comes down, it steals a target creature an opponent controls until end of turn. It untaps it, it gains flying and haste. And then at the beginning of the next end step, target land deals 3 damage to that creature. So oftentimes what you're doing is you're stealing something and then you're going to kill it, right? Because you drop Swooping Pterodon, you make a copy of it with Jolly Balloon Man, triggering the original Swooping Pterodon and the new one. So you could steal up to 3 creatures, and then you have 9 damage to just ping maybe one big thing down or kill all the things you stole. I love this card in this deck. Definitely worth the 5. Professional Facebreaker, super valuable ramp piece, right? It has menace, and then whenever one of our creatures deal combat damage to a player, we can create treasures, and then we can sack treasures to, look at the top of our library and draw cards. We'll exile them, but, do that impulse draw. Really, really strong. Trumpeting Carnosaur. This one, crazy, right? It's got trample. It discovers 5, so it's not going off of its own toughness, which is great. And then you can discard it to just deal, deal 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker. So it has some utility there, but really what we're in here for is it's such a valuable dino balloon, right? Because it's just going to discover 5 every time you make a balloon. So this is another really good just board presence maker out of nowhere. Skoa Embermage, definitely a flex slot. I like it because it's any target, and it's whenever it enters, it just starts damaging things. So I think that's pretty good. I like it, right? And then you just make balloon copies of it, and you can just, machine gun down things. And that gets us into the power up or power down, right? You could, my deck is tuned up with the Freaky-Jiki stuff, and if you wanted to make this deck a little bit more balanced, maybe a little bit lower power level for whatever table you might be bringing it to, but you still want to run Jolly Balloon Man, I would just replace some of these, especially Freaky-Jiki, with just more value pieces, really, or maybe some more targeted removal. That's, this is maybe a flexible slot, but I really like the deck with these cards in it, so I would try it out first, especially if your table can handle it, which it's really, really fun. But Freaky-Jiki, notorious combo card. You put him in anything that can untap him into the zone, and you just go infinite. And that's what we're doing, right? So we got Freaky-Jiki, and then we have Zealous Conscripts. So this is a great example of a combo here. Has haste, and when it enters, gain control of target permanent, untap that permanent, it gains haste. So essentially what you do is you Freaky-Jiki, make a copy of Zealous Conscripts. Zealous Conscripts enters, you untap Freaky-Jiki, and then you make infinite Zealous Conscripts, all with haste. They already have haste, but Kiki would give them haste. So you make a bunch of tokens, untapping Freaky-Jiki. You can do the same thing with Jolly Balloon Man if you have a token maker and a land, right? So that's why he's kind of like a Freaky-Jiki, because he does similar things. So let's use that example here. So if we had an Anointed Procession in play, so whenever you'd make 1 or more tokens under your control, you make double that many. Essentially what you're going to be doing is you're going to be tapping this to tap Jolly Balloon Man. That will give you this and a copy of Zealous Conscripts because of Anointed Procession. So what you're going to do is with the original and the copy, you're going to have the original target Jolly Balloon Man. You're going to have the copy target your land because it's target permanent until end of turn. And then now you have a loop that can clearly be demonstrated to double up everything, right? This does only work if we have our token doubler effect and Jolly Balloon Man. in this specific instance, but there's lots of other ways that you can combo out there. That's just showing how these combos work when you're talking about using different guys. Different guys, because Freaky-Jiki is pretty similar to Kiki-Jiki. So, but yeah, that's our Kiki-Jiki and our Zealous Conscripts. And then we do have a Restoration Angel, which very, very strong, especially with Kiki-Jiki. You can also, keep in mind, anything with Freaky-Jiki is also, if you have, you can also make these amount of tokens based on the amount of mana that you have. You can take whatever I'm saying for Freaky-Jiki and just apply it to, if I have enough mana, I can make this many instances of this effect, right? So if you can pay 1, you can copy Resto. Resto comes in, flickers Jolly Balloon Man. Then you have to have another mana, do the same thing. Pretty interesting stuff. But another token doubler would really help you with this too, because a target non-angel, you could do it with like a Mana Dork, and you could start flickering and going with really interesting things going on there. But Resto and Kiki-Jiki just go infinite together, right? Because you tap, you make a Resto Angel, you flicker this, and then you make another Resto Angel, do the same thing, make infinite flying, hasting Resto Angels, and then you just beat people to death with it. Same thing goes for Felidar Guardian and Village Bellringer. So, Village Bellringer and Kiki-Jiki go infinite together. Village Bellringer and our boy, the Jolly Balloon Man, they just need one extra step. They need one extra part in a mana dork. They need a dork that is hasted or can tap for mana. So if you have enough mana, you can even use this to, it's pretty interesting stuff. So you can make a copy, have a hasty Ornithopter of Paradise or something, and then you can cast, because what I've done before is I've had enough mana to use Jolly Balloon Man, make a hasted Ornithopter of Paradise, float the token mana with my balloon, and then come in with a Village Bellringer having the 1 left over, and then it'll untap everything, and now you have your infinite loop started. So you can do a lot of things, and no one can really know what turn you're just going to just pop right off and kill everybody, but there's lots of... That's kind of why I've always loved Kiki-Jiki, because what he can do with creatures, so having one in the command zone that's a little bit more restrictive gave me an interesting building challenge of kind of what you can do. But these are pretty classic combinations of cards, just throwing an extra step in with the Balloon Man to just need a mana outlet, just to have a mana producing creature so that Village Bellringer can untap itself. And then you can do similar things in terms of, our Kiki Felidar is exactly like our Resto Angel. Kiki works really well, and Felidar Guardian, like I mentioned earlier, but since we're going through combos and stuff, we can reference it pretty easily with an Impact Tremors and the combo we spoke of earlier with Curse Mirror, right? So if you have Felidar Guardian in play and Impact Tremors in play, you just cast Curse Mirror targeting Felidar Guardian. When it enters as Felidar Guardian, you flicker Felidar Guardian, and then you repeat that process, because this can target another permanent you control. So that's why it works with this, and Resto Angel doesn't work the same way, because Resto Angel says non-angel permanent, so you can't do the same thing. I just like to make that clear, because these often serve this exact same purpose, but just this is the one instance in this deck that I know of that they specifically do not. So just getting that clear seemed good to me. But there's lots and lots of ways to just damage out people. And then, so let's get into our land plan here. Alright, so we're running Command Tower, Exotic Orchard, pretty classic stuff. I'm running Sokazan and Ministirith. Right, I like these. Sokazan just makes tokens, could be good. Ministirith, it's just Ministirith, right? It's just card draw if we're attacking. I think any deck that has white and is aggressive should just have Ministirith. Because as long as you have a legendary, it doesn't even come in tapped. Sacred Foundry, Rugged Prairie, Pillar Verge Pathway, Battlefield Forge, Inspired Vantage, Spectator Seating, Clifftop Retreat. These are our dual lands that we're running. And then we're running a lot of plains. So I need to pick up the lands for this deck. I typically like to have prettier lands than just these basics. But we are leaning more into the plains aspect than we are into the mountain aspect. And that is specifically because of our synergy pieces with our Loyal Warhound and such, right? We are running a lot of mountains, but we're running more basic plains just because we have cards that can specifically only fetch plains. So that is our Balloon Man. Boop. That's our Balloon Boy. Love him. I'm having a lot of fun playing with him. I'm super excited to get to try him out this week. I had a lot of fun playing Arabella. I think if you're playing more formats, you know, I've had a lot of time where like we're playing with like 5 or 6 people at a time. I think Arabella might be better suited for those types of, you know, different variants of Commander where you're having more people play. But if you're in like a regular pod, Balloon Man seems nuts. He seems so crazy strong, so fun to play, just popping balloons left and right. So I'm super excited to play the list and see how it goes. But if you're liking decks like this and liking what I'm doing here, just drop a like, comment, you know, subscribe if you like me that much. But everything helps and it lets me know I'm going in the right direction. I will see you guys in the next Deck Tech, though. Bye!